Hey guys, Jim here. Going to be a very exciting video and probably going to be a very long video. So get yourself a drink, make yourself a sandwich, and settle in and get ready for Guest Blade episode number 8, the Reese Weiland Wolverine. Oh, this thing is going to blow your mind. Before I get into the knife, or anything else, I do want to kind of give a huge thank you to J Diesel Joe 69, who was kind enough to send this knife out to me. Because you've got to realize that what I'm holding here is something very special, very rare, and very, very, very expensive. And we'll talk about all that a little bit later. This was a knife I had not heard of personally until last week, and I'm scrolling through my Instagram feed, and I follow J Diesel Joe 69, as well should you. And I saw these two little 15-second IG videos of this knife, and I lost it. I mean, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I said, man, I would love to get my hands on this for a Guest Blade episode. And he responded right away and said, hey, we can make that happen. Just contact me. And I was so very surprised because until that point, he and I really had no real interaction to speak of. So, Joe, thank you so very much for your trust in me to send out something like this and to share this with all of my subscribers and everybody else. This was truly a big honor for me. What we're looking at here, you might be thinking, well, that sure is a pretty knife. It kind of looks like a Why-lund Eagle. And you would be 50% right because in essence, this is two Why-lund Eagles put together. And we're going to get in detail on the incredible workmanship a little bit later, but I want to get the shock and awe factor out of the way first before we get into all that. You might be thinking, well, this is going to be a pain in the ass to have to open up one blade, then use a finger. No. You guys ready for this? This thing kicks like a cannon. You have two automatic knives set up with these insane blades, an S30 steel, S30V steel, mirror polished bevels, satin flats, all ported, everything polished, everything done to an insane quality level. I've never seen anything like this. And as far as I know, this is the only dual firing twin blade automatic in existence. If there's another one, I don't know of it. And he's using amazing materials. All this incredible titanium. That's a big ass block of titanium. Damascus, genuine ivory. And that's why these command the prices that they do. The very few that are out there. In one of these versions, they're anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000. You get into the Damascus blade versions, I'm sure they get to be quite a bit more. Now, I did see one for sale right now. You could actually go, I mean, as long as you're watching it, within the few days of me uploading this. If you're watching this archive video 5 years later, it's not going to happen. But if you Google it, Why-lund Wolverine, you'll find the website where I found one for sale, and they want $4,000 for theirs. And I got to tell you, I am not an art knife guy. I'm not a fantasy knife guy. And this really, honestly, this goes into that territory. I can't tell you how much I want this thing. This is insane. It is ridiculous. It is completely unnecessary. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I don't care. The quality in which this was made, if you took this block of tie out and you just had your two separate knives, the quality level in which this is manufactured is insane. I've just never seen anything like it before. I want to make sure I'm not piercing my leather here. You've got these monster blades, which are right around 4.5 inches long each. The whole thing is 9 7/8 inches, and closed up it's 5 3/4 inches. You want to guess how much this thing weighs? 15 ounces. That's 1 ounce shy of a pound. 1 ounce shy of carrying around a hammer with you. Now, obviously, there's a downside to this knife, and probably the only reason that I'll never own it. And it's a pretty big downside. There's no pocket clip. How am I going to carry this thing? No, of course not. God, if I had this, I'll be honest with you, as ridiculous and silly and frivolous as it is, I would have a pouch made and I would find a way to carry it every now and then just to say that I actually carried it. This is absolutely amazing. The inlay work is flawless. There's not a seam here. You don't feel anything. It's just perfect from the titanium over to the Damascus. You can even see how perfectly this, I guess you could just call it a cutout, is, so that when you're laying your finger across it to release the plunger style release, it's a little more ergonomic for you. The bolsters made of Damascus are equally as beautiful. And as you see, the steel, the blades, are exceptional. They even picked up my fingerprints. Let me just wipe it down real fast because I want to have the best presentation for this possible and not get distracted by something silly like that. I'm in complete awe of this knife. Again, it makes no sense. You would look at this, if it was made by anybody else, if it was a, $50 little novelty, you would have to call it silly. But this is extreme craftsmanship here. Whether it's two knives or if it was just made as the single knife, the quality is amazing. I haven't had it in my hands all that long. I've been far too excited to just sit on this. I had to get to making a video right away. But in the short amount of time I've had it in my hands, I've yet to find a flaw. And I wanted to give everybody a full HD look all the way around this, right from the beginning, so that you could kind of breathe it in and enjoy it for what it is. Now you'll notice this one's built backwards, so you have your liner lock that goes that way, and then your standard liner lock on this side. Which is actually a great idea because, well, I mean, you could have brought it over that way just as easily, but I think that's fine. This is a magnificent work of art. And I'm just enjoying the little bit of time that I have with it because I'll probably never get a chance to hold one again. If one comes available for sale at the right time for me, I think I'm just going to have one, just to say that I have one. I did kind of play with it a little bit. The blades are not insanely sharp. They are certainly adequate. They would certainly do a tremendous amount of damage. The points, the tips are nice and sharp. But it's not going to be your ultimate paper slicer or anything like that. So, like I mentioned, it's basically two of his Eagle models put together. He makes normal knives, but he also does these amazing works of art as well. So you've got a lot of different options. I mean, he's one of those guys that makes everything himself by hand. So you could come at him with, obviously, pretty much any idea, no matter how outlandish, and he can execute it. This is an interesting feel in the hand. You can't grip it like a normal knife. You have to kind of hold it sideways. But yeah, that's about as cool as knives get. This looks like something that you would see out of a movie, wouldn't you? The whole thing with Reese Weiland is, I mean, he's one of the top tier knife makers out there. He put his story, it's a very short story, but he put his story up on his website. And I'm basically just going to read off what he wrote because nobody's going to know more about him than himself. So it's just easier to do that. It says he became fascinated with blades as a child, thanks to his uncle, who was an amateur archaeologist that made knives out of saw blades. After receiving a book on how to make knives from his uncle one Christmas, he made a sword out of a piece of junk and gave it to his uncle. He then became a member of the Knife Makers Guild around 1988, and the following year he actually created his first folding knife. So you've got a guy that's been in this business a hell of a long time, that has the expertise level to create something this flawless. Take away the fact that you have this crazy, insane double blade automatic. And let's just look at it as a single knife. And you look at the beautiful ivory that he's used, and I love the way he did the fitment here. He didn't make it a completely smooth, seamless integration. Instead, he beveled off the ivory so it gives you a wonderful three-dimensional look and feel to the handle. Then it drops down to the Damascus bolster. The titanium work is fantastic. You know, and all these pieces fit in the exact same radiuses, everything else. So you've got your ivory titanium, a titanium liner, block of titanium, another titanium liner, and ivory. And they're all flawless. Everything fits together perfectly. The workmanship is off the charts. It is absolutely worth the $4,000 that you would have to pay to get your hands on one. Is it practical? Shit, no. There is no practical need for having anything like this. But its awesome factor, it's kind of off the charts. Even if you have zero appreciation for art knives or fantasy knives. And I only have a small appreciation for them. I can look at them and go, well, that took a lot of work to manufacture it, but it's silly to me and I have no need for it. But this reminds me of stuff that, you know, Gil Hibben was doing back in the day, back in the 80s. You remember the silver shadow, double shadow, things like that. And I look at this as a beautiful, wonderful piece of art. I don't want to call it a functional piece of art because in the everyday world, you're never going to use this. I would have to assume that even if you had any concealed carry permit allowed by law, if you pulled this out and fired this off and opened it up, you would scare enough people, the cops would be called, and they'd probably harass you a fair amount. And God help you if you didn't have a carry permit. There's no way you'd be allowed to carry this. And then, of course, you have so many states that make automatic knives illegal 100% anyway. So there is no practical purpose for a knife like this. This is absolutely bragging rights to be able to say, look what I've got. Now, I look at it a little bit differently, not so much like bragging rights, but more of I own a piece of cutlery art, a piece of cutlery history that may never be repeated again by anyone else, and I love to share that with you. And I think that was what Joe was thinking when he said, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and send it out to you, to be able to share in the joy that he has with owning this knife. I can only imagine how giddy he must have been when he first got it. And I don't know if he had ordered it from somebody or bought it from a friend or saw it at a dealer. He may have ordered this online and just seen it for the very first time when it landed on his doorstep, for all I know. But I've got to imagine the very first time he handled it, he had to have reacted the same way I did. It's unlike anything else out there. And I don't think there's a need for anybody else to replicate it. When it's already done this well, why should anybody else even try? It's a monster, it's a beast, it's heavy, it's big, it's beautiful, it's well made, it's got exotic materials, it's got a high price tag, there's a certain degree of collectability. And whether you can appreciate it for what it is or not, you have to look at it and go, wow, somebody actually made that. I can't imagine how many hours went into this, but somebody took the time to make something this beautiful. And I've never owned a Why-lund knife before. I am most certainly going to pay a lot more attention now to see the... I already knew of a couple of different models that he had made, but now I'm starting to look a little bit more deeply and go, huh, when I look at the work that's been done here, I would love to have just a regular, normal, everyday custom knife made by him, a regular EDC knife. And the use of his Timascus and the way he flamed it to bring out the colors that he brought out. I mean, this is beautiful. It's exceptional work. So anyway, I just wanted to get a chance to share this with you. It's a masterful work of art. It's the only way I can put it. There's no way to exaggerate how cool this knife is. You can't. There's no exaggeration here. The knife itself is an exaggeration. So you can't go beyond that. Dear God. It's like I want to sit here and play with it all day, but, you know, I'm certainly not going to. Well, okay, I'll do it again. Watch how hard this fires. Whew. You just want to make little animal noises. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to put this down for now. Hopefully you're as astonished as I am. Hopefully this was a good HD view into, again, taking away the fact that it's an art knife that's got all this going on, and you just look at it as one knife. Hopefully you've had a chance to see the beauty of this design, the quality craftsmanship in that S30V steel, the Timascus, the ivory, the titanium, everything that's been done here, and appreciate it for the work of art that it is. I'm going to let it go at that. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And once again to Joe, thank you very much, and I will see you guys later.